Sky Sports Italy have reported that Zerbi is not expected to join Tottenham until the summer. Alan Shearer has stated that it's not Igor Tudor's fault as Spurs are a mess before he arrived. And Postecoglou has stated that this relegation battle is massive for Tottenham, the latest on Cristian Romero's situation, and reports are stating that many clubs hold an interest in Archie Gray. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This is the daily Tottenham news headlines. I'm Lee, and I'm here to go through all the reports, the news and the reports hitting the headlines today. So let's kick it off. Alan Shearer on Tottenham and Igor Tudor. It was a really poor weekend again for Spurs. I watched the whole game, and the alarming thing for Spurs is being beaten 3-0 by a team you are scrapping with yourselves, particularly at home. And again, where was the response? Forest scored late on in the first half, and you're thinking, okay, what have you got? Give us something in reply. For the second half was even worse. You can feel the edginess, and I get that. I understand that, but defensively, you're just all over the place, and that's more important than anything, particularly at any level of football. You can't defend like that. The lack of energy or drive to stop balls coming into the box is one thing, and then the lack of fighting and scrapping when the people are in and around the box. There wasn't anyone near Morgan Gibbs-White before his goal. The alarming thing is Spurs is how they are going to keep a clean sheet. They just are a mess defensively. It's not Igor Tudor's fault, but obviously he's picked up 1 point in 5 games. But the club was a mess before he got there. You've not got to be put in a situation without the club being a mess. As tough as it is, he hasn't been able to have an impact on the squad and the football club. Now, clearly, he's going through a terrible, horrible time off the pitch in terms of the death of his father. It's an impossible time for him, and Spurs are in a deep mess. Former Spurs boss Ange Postecoglou on Tottenham's current situation. I still have a strong attachment to the club. It was 2 years and they were by no means easy years. We have invested a lot into that team. We won a European trophy, which was an incredible high. The connection there will be there forever. I watched them struggle. It has not been easy, and it's not the way I thought it would end. They're going in the hell of a fight. Relegation is massive for any club, but for Tottenham, it's a pretty big deal. They have some fighting to do, and they have the quality to get out. They need a circuit breaker for sure. Sky Sports have reported that injured Tottenham forward Dejan Kulusevski was pictured at Sweden camp on Wednesday. Kulusevski is not training, but has been seen limping in Sweden's training gear as he supports the national team's preparation for their World Cup playoff against Ukraine on Thursday. The winner will face either Poland or Albania next Tuesday for a place in the finals in the USA in the summer. Kulusevski is continuing his recovery from a serious and long-term knee injury sustained towards the end of last season, which required surgery last summer. Sky Sports have stated that Atletico Madrid are not certain to pursue Tottenham's Cristian Romero again this summer. Sky Sports have long reported the Spanish club's interest, with a push to sign him taking place early last summer. That was not successful. Romero, of course, stayed and signed a new contract under head coach Thomas Frank, but there are again doubts about his future as Spurs near the end of their worst season on record. Atletico manager Diego Simeone said recently he is a big fan of Romero ahead of the meeting in the Champions League last 16, which resulted in Atletico knocking Spurs out. But sources in Spain have told Sky Sports that not everyone involved in making decisions at Atletico is sold on the Argentina World Cup winner. There are also several factors such as price, Spurs Premier League status, and any determination on the part of the player to join them. That will be important to any move Atletico decide to make. Sources in Spain believe Atletico would be reluctant to go beyond £26 million or 30 million euros for the defender, despite his contract running until 2029. Romero, Tottenham's captain, said recently he is focused on trying to keep his side in the Premier League with 7 games to go. I have a lot of respect and affection for the club, Romero said. I want to finish the season in the best way possible. We'll see later about my future, but the most important thing now is to recover energy. Romero is almost certain to attract interest from other big clubs if Atletico do ultimately decide to look elsewhere for a new centre-back. Sky Italy have reported that Roberto De Zerbi is not expected to join Tottenham or any other club before the end of the season. The 46-year-old intends to avoid an immediate return to football after departing Marseille last month and will instead wait to evaluate his options in the summer. This is not thought to be specific to join Tottenham, who have an interest in the former Brighton boss for the permanent head coach role. De Zerbi is confident in his choice, according to Sky Italy, regardless of the other clubs that have been contacted since leaving Marseille, and this is why he is not expected to be back on the bench until next season. It remains to be seen whether anything would cause him to change his mind amid continued uncertainty over interim head coach Igor Tudor's position during the international break. Italian news outlet Gazzetta dello Sport have stated Tottenham Hotspur loanee Randall Kolo Muani wants to return to Juventus from PSG this summer. The striker has struggled for goals this season. He is due to return to his parent club when his temporary deal expires. Spurs landed Kolo Muani last summer to bolster their attacking department. They brought in a forward to add more competition and depth to their options at the top of the pitch. However, his time in England hasn't really gone to plan. ESPN have reported that Manchester United, Borussia Dortmund, Chelsea and Aston Villa hold interest in versatile Tottenham Hotspur defender Archie Gray. Team Talk have also stated Manchester United hold an interest in versatile Tottenham defender Archie Gray, who can play across defence or in midfield. United will face plenty of competition for the 20-year-old signature, though, as Borussia Dortmund, Chelsea and Aston Villa are also interested. All 4 clubs are expected to attempt to move if Spurs are relegated from the Premier League. And if it does happen, a deal could be completed for around £50 million. So, a lot to get through again today, but mainly about the managerial situation, which is, again, it's obvious that that's going to be the case with the problems that we're currently facing. Okay, let's kick off with Alan Shearer on Igor Tudor. I get what he's saying, that the club was a mess before Tudor came in. I think we can all agree on that. I think we've been a mess even towards the end of Postecoglou's tenure. We weren't winning games in the Premier League. We were all over the place. Last season, however, I do feel that relegation was never really a consideration. We finished 17th, but I think, the league was kind of pushed to one side with the Europa League competition going on and us getting to the final. So I do think that we kind of gave up on that from a Postecoglou point of view. So I do think that we are a mess. However, I do have serious doubts over Tudor. I personally wasn't, how shall I put it? I wasn't impressed or kind of endeared to the idea of Igor Tudor. mainly because I'd never heard of him, mainly because he'd never played in the or been in the Premier League, and so for me, I was like, this seems like a real kind of stab in the dark. However, I read the reports, I listened to what people were saying, and he's been a specialist of short-term, quick impact, keeping teams in divisions and all that kind of stuff, and it kind of made sense to me. I was like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. It felt very much under Frank that the players were not interested in playing for Frank, that they did not respect him at all. That's how it felt, and maybe a little bit of discipline, a little bit of real talk. And structure may actually benefit this squad of players. However, it appears to me that he's more of a disciplinarian than anything else. And unfortunately, in today's society, people don't react well to just strict discipline. Lots of people, certain ages, certainly, will always work better with a little bit of both, with a bit of an arm round them, a little bit of bigging up, a little bit of, love, that kind of stuff, as well as that truth and discipline and structure. For me, the biggest issue has been around continuing with a back three, even when we didn't have three centre-backs available. Playing players out of position, Xavi Simons, dropping out after a good game, and Porro then being pushed up, and all this kind of stuff. Polina in defence, Gray in defence. Well, then he's in midfield, then he's back in defence, and stuff like that. Richarlison's removal at the weekend instead of Solanke's, which seemed an odd one to me. But listen, it's all about opinions, right? But for me, I feel like who's your best team that's fit, who's going to perform for you, who's got the fight to do the job. Get them in, get them playing, get a nucleus around them, make them feel loved, give them the structure, give them the instructions, and keep pushing on with that. Then with the other players, you then say, right, look, this is what I want you to do. You see what X is doing. That's what I want you to do in that position, which is your natural position when you're available. So I do think that Igor Tudor is the master of a lot of his own problems, in my view. But yeah, I get the point that Alan is trying to make. And of course, Alan knows more about football than I'll ever know. Moving on to the Ange Postecoglou thing, I guess it's good to know that he still cares about the club. I think that's a nice thing. It's good to know that. I think one day, hopefully, once Tottenham are back as regular contenders for Champions League football and stuff like that, and back to where we were, I think Ange Postecoglou will one day be invited back to the club and will be well received. I think, he won us a trophy, and you can't complain on that. He wasn't given the opportunity to play with the squad that we've got now, the improvements that they brought in, the extra players. I mean, he didn't have a Polina. He didn't have He didn't have a fit striker. His defence was just kids most of the time. He didn't have the regularity of the players that we've got now. So, I do feel a little bit for Postecoglou, and I'm pleased that he's invested slightly in the club. And he's right. We need something to happen to give us that boost to push on, a circuit breaker, as he puts it. Dejan Kulusevski with the Sweden squad. Yeah, I saw the video of him limping and so on, and of course it's come out today that he's had further surgery for a small removal from the knee of an object that shouldn't be there, and hence why he's limping. That only happened 2 weeks ago, hence why we're still not seeing him training and moving forward. It's one of those, lots of speculation about him ever but being able to play again and so on. But he seems to be saying that he is able to get back, that this is healing, and he's confident. So if he's confident, you've got to go with that. He is the person, he knows his body. So fingers crossed he can come back. But again, I don't think we're going to see Kulusevski until next season. and it will take a hell of a long time for him to get back to his match sharpness and fitness. So I don't expect to see any kind of meaningful impact from Kulusevski, certainly this season and potentially into next. Okay, let's talk about Cristian Romero and Atletico Madrid. Of course, when you're a World Cup winning player, Copa del Rey, is it the other one? I don't know. No, not Copa del Rey, is it? It's the Copa America. They're winning. He's won these trophies. He's an experienced guy. He's well respected. He is a winner. So there's always going to be that kind of interest in a player of that stature. Is Atletico Madrid his best choice? I don't know. I would have thought he'd have had other choices ahead of them, if I'm being honest. 30 million euros. I'm sorry, but 30 million euros is a ridiculous amount and feels very much like just circling the club to kind of pick the bones if we get relegated and so on. I know they've been interested and stuff, and the money isn't there in Spanish football or in a lot of those European clubs, but they'll find it if they really want to. Personally, I like Romero. I think he's a good player. I do question his leadership, if I'm being honest, and sometimes he's trying to do it all on his own. The fact that he wasn't tracking back for Morgan Gibbs-White goal after kind of being caught out in no man's land and stuff. Sometimes his decision making is crazy. I do feel he gets unfairly picked on by referees and by the media. You even see it in the Forest game where Archie Gray took a big a stamp on the leg and got nothing, whereas for sure if that had been Romero, he was going off. So there's some of these things that he does bring on himself, but at the same time, once you've made a name for yourself, it's very, very difficult to drop it, isn't it? Do I want to see him go? I don't really want to see him go, if I'm being honest, because I think he is a quality player, and it also sends the wrong message. But if he went, would I cry buckets? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Like I've said many, many times, the players are temporary, the fans are permanent. So there'll always be another Romero, there'll always be another hero that will come in and do the business. But I do believe he is a quality player, coached properly, in the right position, with the right players around him, and not having to do everybody else's jobs. I think, he's someone I wouldn't really want to lose if I didn't have to. This story about Kolo Muani wanting to go back to Juventus. See you, mate. Thanks a lot. Do you need cab fare? I'm sure I can pull a full shekels in to get you on that plane. That sounds really disrespectful. I don't mean it to be. I'm just being a little bit provocative there. But for me, his time at Tottenham has been a disaster. Now, a lot of that is because he's not playing regularly, and he's playing in different positions and so on and so forth, and he's had an injury. But for me, he's just not shown enough. I mean, he spends more time doing that than actually chasing the ball down. And I'd much rather have Richarlison there and Solanke dropping deeper and trying to pick up stuff than Kolo Muani running around like a headless chicken chasing nothing and getting nowhere. So for me, I don't think that's a deal that's going to happen in the summer. If it does, I'd be really, really surprised. This league is not for him, for sure. So I don't think that's going to happen at all. Roberto De Zerbi, we've been talking about this to death, haven't we? Some of them are saying yes, he's going to come short term on a longer term deal with an option to not stay if we get relegated and stuff like that. Others are saying yes, he will come or won't come. He wants to see what his options are in the summer and blah blah blah. To be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. I feel like Tudor needs to go, and I feel like we need someone else in. I'm not sure whether the Zerbi would want to do it on a short-term thing without those opportunities to move on if we are to get relegated. I think that would be maybe one of the things that would swing it if he was to be given that assurance that he would get that, and he did do well at Brighton. And I think I said it previously that for me, I think is more about Brighton's structure than it is about the manager, because they seem to do well, whoever the manager is. So yeah, I'm not. I don't know, and I think it still also leaves this bloody issue of Pochettino. There are so many fans invested in the Pochettino scenario and the return and everything, which again could be nostalgia, could just be fans feeling nostalgic about him, unfinished business, all that kind of stuff. But he can't come until after the World Cup, because obviously he's focused on the World Cup. He could sign a deal to say he's coming once the World Cup's over, but that doesn't help us now, and it's now that we're worried about. I just worry, like with De Zerbi, that we're going to end up in the same scenario that we were, or we've been this revolving door since Pochettino left. No manager has been given time or backing. Frank, in my view, probably got most backing out of any of them, but obviously didn't get the time. Now, personally, I think it was a bad fit, and I think that's probably more to do with him coming in, was because everyone was saying we need a plan B, because Postecoglou only plays one way. That didn't work, and we need someone who can adapt. But for me, he got probably the most backing in terms of players brought in. Again, you can argue whether they're the right players or not. So yeah, I don't know with this De Zerbi thing. It's one of those. We're talking about it daily, and I don't think we're any further forward. So I think there's only a few people that really know the answer to that question. And so finally, Man United after Archie Gray. Again, another story we've kind of been talking about. And now Chelsea and Borussia Dortmund and Aston Villa are all kind of coming into the mix. I don't think Archie Gray would go to Chelsea because of the Tottenham connection. We don't tend to do business with them. They don't tend to do business with us. Aston Villa, whilst they are maybe doing well at the moment, I don't see that as an option for him. I don't think, this is going to sound really disrespectful to Aston Villa, but I don't think they're a big enough name for him to want to make a different step. Because I believe if we stay in the Premier League, Archie Gray will think his best option is to stay at Tottenham, where he's proven himself, and build his reputation even further for a bigger move in the future if he wants one. And by bigger, I'm talking about, a move to a Man City or to a Real Madrid or a Barcelona or someone like that sort of stature, a Bayern Munich even. So personally, I don't see him going. I think he's a pretty level-headed kid who's got great family structure, who knows the business, who knows football business. And I think he'll probably have the right sort of people around him making the right decisions for him. So, yeah, I don't see it happening at the moment, but never say never. Never say never. Anyway, listen, thanks for watching. As always, really, really appreciate it. Getting some good feedback on the videos, some decent amounts of views. Please do subscribe to Chris's channel. Hit the notification bell so you'll know whenever any of us upload videos to the channel to keep you up to date with everything that's going on. If you're listening on audio, please do give us a review and hit the follow button. As I said, I'm leader Dorset Spur. I do my own channel. You'll find it's very easy. Chris has put in the links in the description. Come over, say hi, and give us that support. I'd really appreciate it. But thanks for watching this one, and as always, up the Spurs.